Hey guys, it's your host Julian. This week I sit down with Isaiah Filmore. Isaiah runs my favorite retrospective on animation, 47 Cartoon Guy. We chat the early days of his content creation, his love of animation and Cartoon Network, and just why and how Scooby-Doo is so influential to him. This one was a lot of fun to just geek out about the shows we grew up with and just why Cartoon Network sticks out the most to us. Make sure you show Isaiah some love and check out his YouTube channel. Those links are in the description below. I promise you this, if you like this show even a teensy tiny bit, you're going to love Isaiah's channel, and that's 47 Cartoon Guy. Also, we just launched our latest retrospective over on YouTube. It's all about Space Ghost Coast to Coast and its importance for Cartoon Network's longevity. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to What's in My Head podcast. I'm your host, Julian, and today I'm joined by Isaiah, Mr. 47 Cartoon Guy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Love the shirt.
Oh, thank you. It's my it was one of my Christmas presents from my kid. He saw it either Walmart or maybe Kohl's. I think it was Walmart. It got me this really cool shirt. And the only one you can kind of see is old chicken hanging out, but it's got the original, group. Well, Ed and Eddy's in there, so it's not the original What a Cartoon Days, but most of them are on there. But ladies and gentlemen, man, Cartoon Guy here, 47 Cartoon Guy, excuse me, Isaiah. He's got my favorite retrospective YouTube channel ever. I love it. I want to know, man, take us back if we can get in that metaphorical DeLorean and we can go back in time. How does Isaiah come up with the 47 Cartoon Guy moniker?
Well, actually, just came to me. I guess we're coming up names because I was like in high school when I first made this channel,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess it just kind of came up in my head. I
Mm-hmm.
was. It's funny because everyone always asks me that where the voice of a cartoon guy came from, and killed me.
Are you fine?
And I feel bad because and I don't have an interesting story about it. It's like it just came to me.
Well, that's still pretty cool, man. You started this in high school. That's got some really force. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I am 29. I'll be 30 in May.
30 in May, man. What day?
27.
Oh man, I was gonna say if you had it on the 23rd, you would share my wife and I's anniversary with your birthday. But we can bring you in for a inaugurational birthday too. But so early happy birthday, because I'm pretty sure I'll still hit you up with that happy birthday when it comes on May 27th. But what I like about this is that you had the foresight in high school to say, hey, I like this stuff. I love this animation. I want to start a channel. Like when I was coming up, and I'm 30, am I 34? Yeah, I'll be 34 this year. So I'm not too much older than you, but 4 years, especially when it comes to technology, is a long time. I mean, I don't even know when the first YouTube video kind of popped up. I knew it was all cat videos when it first started.
Oh,
But to
yeah.
sit there and have, like I said, the foresight to think, hey, man, I want to talk about the stuff that I'm consuming. I want to talk about the stuff that kind of help mold me and kind of help grow me to the individual that I am. That, like I said, that's got some serious foresight. So what was it about animation and cartoons that, man, you really just want to start a channel and start talking about?
Actually, I actually made the channel in 2012 when I was still in high school, and I would have graduated a little while after.
Hmm.
I didn't really actually get started until after I flunked college and moved back with my parents. And it was actually a hobby I could do when I was looking for like a job or something. To
Hmm.
quote Danny Antonucci, I was living with my parents. I was moved back with my parents, and I was total bum get a fucking job. And yeah, I just started like something easy, like doing dishwashing, and then I could just start doing videos. And my earliest stuff I'm not proud of is really really bad. Just poor audio, Windows Movie Maker editing, and AVS Video Editor with the watermark and stuff. Like I cringe every time I think about it, but I keep it up for like nostalgia and just how far I came as a creator.
Hmm. Well, that's really cool, man, because that's something social media and things like YouTube have a huge effect on how we not so much interact with people, but how we interact with ourselves on a day-to-day basis. Like I can see so many great comments about something I put up, And it's that one bad comment. I'm better at it now because I just don't look at them very often. I'm just too goddamn busy at the end of the day to interact with too many people. I enjoy everybody that watches and everybody that listens. So don't think that I'm just ignoring people to ignore people, because I really appreciate everybody that has spent a little bit of time on my channel. Because you guys could literally be doing anything else in the world, other than watching my videos or other than listening to me talk and wax poetically about cartoons or comic books or whatever it is that's interesting me that week. But like I said, man, it's something special when you can look back and say, "Oh man, I sucked for like ever," and then you can pinpoint kind of where you started to get normal and, start to feel normal. Excuse me. You start to feel normal and you start to feel comfortable inside your own skin with whatever you choose to do, whether you're talking to folks like I do or you're doing retrospective videos like you do. Do you remember when you started to feel like, oh shit, I'm starting to get better at this and I'm starting to feel really comfortable at doing what I do?
Hmm. I would say a little around 2019.
Hmm.
Prior to that, I was pretty much doing anything that would give me any video that would give me views. But actually, around like early 2019, my channel got demonetized for reused content.
Hmm.
And actually, that was a blessing in the disguise because it actually made me want to like overhaul my channel. I actually made a my friend and I, Jenny Liano, she helped me make a logo and stuff for my channel, and I actually that's when I first started doing the retrospectives. The one I remember being most proud of that came out that year was my history of Cartoon Fridays.
Hmm.
Looking back, there's some things I could have done better, but for the most part, I think it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I've recently, and I think we've had this talk. We haven't had this talk in quite some time. I think it was probably maybe 6, 8 months ago, because I remember us. Maybe how many parts was it for the Fantastic Legacy of Hanna-Barbera? Was it five?
Five, yeah.
Five. So I think it was probably around part three. Maybe is that when you got the Liquid IV sponsorship?
Oh no. I can't. My Witches Ghost video, my Scooby-Doo and Witches Ghost video. That was the first one I had to live with IV sponsor thing.
Okay. Okay, yeah, then it was that one because it was right around the release of that one because I remember hitting you up saying, "Hey, man, I'm super proud that you got a sponsor." And then I don't know how it kind of devolved into us talking about like, "Hey, it's cool to see where you come from." And then I think you gave me one or two of your videos that you're like, "Man, those are tough to watch," and I go back and watch them. And I was like, dude, I thought these were pretty cool, man. I like it. And especially, we've only done two of them. And like I said, your channel in specific or in particular, whatever the right terminology is for that one, has inspired me to do more retrospective videos. And to be fair, like Larry does all the video editing. So I sit on here, I write a script out, I'll go and then I record the audio. So I'm just doing weeks of research to make sure that I do justice and honor to everybody that I'm going to bring up in a video. And I love your witty sarcasm on some topics. I love your humor. The fact that I can feel how joyous you are on the topics you're covering. Like I said, you don't see that with too many content creators, at least the ones that I follow. It seems like it's starting to become a job with a lot of folks. And then once you hit a certain level where you're doing millions of views, I guess it kind of is a job, because that's your cash flow, that's your income. But like I said, I love listening to you break down something because you have such an interesting way of looking at the stuff you're consuming and everything that you're talking about you're super passionate about, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And I absolutely love it. And thank you for the inspiration to, like I said, step into your lane for just a little bit and try some retrospectives out.
Well, if I've done anything to inspire you, I take that as a badge of honor. Thank you so much. And
Absolutely.
actually, it's funny too because you said this about sometimes it feels like a job. To
Hmm.
me, it is. I do this on a side. From now, I'm doing this part time in addition to my dishwashing gig.
Hmm.
And actually, now that I reach 5,000 subscribers, and I just got hit up this morning. I just got hit up with email from Express VPN sponsor, and
Oh, right
I
on, man.
I'm definitely gonna take it, but yeah, I really need to be it sorry. Like it occurs to me that I really need to take this more seriously. I mean, I
Mhm.
already do, but I really need to like make sure this I get put out the best products ever.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, it's excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I got a little bit of a cold I'm working through here. But I really, like I said, damn, hold on. Excuse me. I really enjoy what you do. And going back, like I said, it's not me that I'm going back and watching when I first started, it's somebody else. So I love seeing, I'm pretty sure you'll feel the same, you'll echo the same sentiment here when I break it down. But going and seeing somebody else when they first start and then kind of seeing where they're at maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, however long it is, and then you see just the progression in their skill, the progression in their craft, the progression in the writing, the progression in the video editing. It's it's cool to see it, but it sucks when it's you and you're going back, because I'm pretty sure you're a lot like me. You can sit there, somebody can tell you everything that's great about your video, and you're like, yeah, but there's like 17 things that I see that's wrong that I could have done better,
Oh,
that I wish I knew then what I know now, type of thing. I don't know if you feel that same way.
oh, definitely, definitely, most
Yeah.
definitely.
Absolutely, man. So like I said, I'm so pumped for you to get your next sponsor, and I hope this is like the last catalyst you need, because I want to see you hit 10,000, 20, 100, 1 million, because like I said, I love the videos you put out, man. Um,
Likewise.
Thank you. So we're going to take it another step further in that metaphorical DeLorean, man. So let's take us back to little Isaiah, man. Before 47 Cartoon Guy was an even thought in your head, man. How do you come across Cartoon Network? What was your introduction to this beautiful network for you?
Oh well, my dad was in the army, and we were we were stationed a lot of places. When
Mhm.
we lived in Anchorage, Alaska, from like 95 to 97, and we lived in this housing in Fort Richardson. And I remember watching two channels. One was PBS, and the other was Cartoon Network. And Cartoon Network, that was when I first saw all those classic cartoons.
Mhm.
Around I think my earliest memories would have been like 96.
Yeah.
So I remember watching all those, the Hanna-Barbera stuff, the Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry. And this would have been right around the time World Premiere Tunes came out and Dexter and all that stuff. Uh, it really, Cartoon Network really uh, inspired my love for the classic animation. And
Mhm.
I remember Toonheads. I remember
Yeah.
the Bob Clancy show, the Tex Avery show. And it's like I love watching those that stuff and learn the history behind that. That's kind of something that's missing from Cartoon Network nowadays. I think it's more geared towards kids. It's like I wish there was something for kids who are getting into animation right now. I kind of wish they had something like Toonheads, like I had
Mhm.
growing up. But yeah, and also too, Cartoon Network started my love for Hanna Barbera. I remember
Mhm.
watching. I first saw Joseph Barbera in this special called "The Top 10 Greatest Cartoons of All Time." I think, and this was around like '98 or something. And that was the first time I saw him. Like he was doing like an interview or something like that. And of course, Chuck Jones too. That's when I first saw him,
Mhm.
and also the beginning of the cartoons,
Yeah.
World Premiere Tunes, Dexter, Cowboy Chicken, Johnny Bravo, and all this stuff. The last of the I always saw them as I always called them the last generation Hanna Barbera cartoons.
Mhm.
They were released during that lifetime before the studio shut down. And growing as I got older, Cartoon Network pretty much stayed with me until like I was like in high school. It wasn't because I was too. It's fun. It's funny too, Julian, because I was never that type to turn my nose at cartoons when I was like a teenager and stuff. I still watch cartoons. My issue was back then was like I just didn't like what they were like putting out. This was around the time it was late 2000s, so they were just doing like live action stuff and like that.
Yeah.
The CN Real, whatever, out of Jimmy's head shit.
Do you like Nickelodeon?
Do you like whiskey or whiskey cocktails?
Then you should hang out with us. I'm Ty.
I'm Sean.
And we run Whiskeylodeon, the podcast.
Ty, what is this podcast about?
It's where we drink whiskey or whiskey cocktails while rewatching the old school Nickelodeon shows we loved growing up.
And let's be honest, we go on a lot of tangents.
So many tangents. Are we on a tangent right now?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my gosh, well, we gotta get back. We are covering Rugrats, Hey Arnold, Are You Afraid of the Dark, all the golden greats of Nickelodeon.
And these shows give us so much joy.
And we want to bring you that same joy. So find us wherever you get your podcasts at Whiskeylodeon.
And I gotta cut you off right now because we honestly cannot afford any more ad space, and it really just kind of has to end right.
Absolutely, man. It was definitely a weird time because I really felt this story's come up a couple times on my show, but like if it would have been for a little show called Regular Show, man, I probably wouldn't be into animation like I am now, because that reinvigorated it relit that fire of animation underneath me. I'm like, wow, this is so good, because a lot like you, you're 4 years younger than me, but I was going through that same thing. It's just like, man, like all of the creators that I've followed since I was 5-6 years old are all gone now. They're doing other things. Gendy was kind of wrapping up, and he was over at Sony, I think, at that point. He might have just started doing maybe Symbiotic Titan and what the first run of what was it, Star Wars, Clone Wars, whatever it was, or first couple episodes, whatever he did. And then, Craig was still around. I think he had probably just started to go wander over yonder over there. And, it's just so many of the folks that I grew up with just weren't there. And then it really started to feel like, hey, man, this stuff just isn't for me anymore. I need to find something else. So I started watching more live action stuff. Basketball was a huge thing for me during that era. Like especially my early high school and all the way through to even now, basketball has been such a huge part of my life. And like I said, just seeing a lot of that live action stuff and it being on a Cartoon Network, literally, it said Cartoon Network and we weren't getting any cartoons. I was blown away. I was hurt more than anything as a kid. It's just like, man, I really feel like this was my dad. And then he walked out for milk and just never came back. That's what my Cartoon Network felt like growing up, in those formative teenage years. So it sucked in a sense. And then it wasn't until I was on shore duty in Virginia, of all places, just sitting on the couch, and then Regular Show pops up. And I'm like, holy shit, this is funny. This is anime. This is like some stuff that I would have loved as a little kid growing up. And then that kind of went into Adventure Time. I was a little late on Adventure Time. I was late on Steven Universe because, like I said, I just took a break from animation. And then I started getting into more of the Adult Swim stuff too. I don't know if, were you ever a fan of the Adult Swim stuff?
Yeah, it's like I didn't really watch it until I was like in middle school, and that's when I first started watching Family Guy and all that stuff, South Park and whatever. But yeah, I loved Harvey Birdman, Space Ghost.
Yeah.
Space Ghost. I remember watching. I actually remember watching before it became before Adult Swim was ever created. It would come on late at night, I believe, and I was a little kid, so I didn't really get most of the humor and stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember liking it more than the original 60s Space Ghost, which would come around sometime during the day.
Yeah. The Space Ghost Coast to Coast, that intro song and music lives rent free in my head forever. That was a big inspiration, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't skip over the intro. The intro is pretty cool that Larry put together. Shout out to Larry, man. He's always doing something phenomenal with our video editing. But I sent him a clip of, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and I was like, dude, I would love something like this. It's just the music. I wish we could use something like that for music because it's so fun. It puts you in the mood. It's a time capsule. You remember when Nickelodeon did that time capsule and they buried it like 30 years ago? It's like Slime Magazine, the slime shit, and all that stuff. You remember that?
I remember hearing about it, but that was like a year before I was born.
Yeah,
that was 92, I believe.
Yeah, it was. They buried like Slime Magazine. Maybe it was an old phone. It was just a whole bunch of Nickelodeon stuff.
Yeah, Home Alone VHS, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what Space Ghost Coast to Coast feels like for me. It's like I was in the same boat. I was a little too young to really understand it, but seeing it throughout the years as I got older and older and older, I just remember like, holy shit, this is funny, this is different. And then I'm pretty sure you get in the same mindset since you do the retrospective videos, but like you try to put yourself in a position to be like, man, what was the climate like? Not as much politics or anything like that, but like what was the climate like? What were people like in 94 when Space Ghost Coast to Coast comes out? And then you find out like they reused animation, right? And then they just dubbed over stuff. So, and then they have some of the greatest writers. That show, Betty Cohen said it herself on my episode, the first president for Cartoon Network. She literally said, without Space Ghost Coast to Coast, it'd be kind of hard to figure out what original programming would look like for Cartoon Network, because at that time it was just a Hanna-Barbera rerun channel.
Yeah, Looney Tunes, Popeye, MGM, all this stuff. And also that too, I actually had to 2016, I was at a con, what was it? MumbleCon, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually got to meet C. Martin Croker, and it was like before he died. Yeah, and I remember I don't have it anymore because it got destroyed in the fire, but I actually bought a Cartoon Network hat from him, and I actually told him like, "Hey, can you give me some advice about? I want to get an animation. Got any advice?" I remember specifically he told me, "Don't move to Atlanta."
Don't move to Atlanta.
Yeah, I imagine.
Why?
I
Why
don't
not?
know.
Did he ever elaborate?
Nah, he might have been joking, but I imagine it would be easier to get a job and less expensive than in LA.
Yeah. Yeah, it's guy was definitely gone way too soon. I mean, he did Moltar, he did Zorak. There was so many things that guy did that was so influential, just not just so much on that show either. I mean, that, like Betty said, that show laid the foundation for Cartoon Network to go into original programming. But if you go and you look at all of those credits on that show, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, I would be hard pressed, and you would be hard pressed to not see half, three quarters, fucking 2/3, almost the entire roster of Space Ghost Coast to Coast popping up on other Adult Swim. So it propped up Cartoon Network, but it laid the foundation for Adult Swim to be built on, man. So that show is super integral and very, 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 what's the right word I'm looking for? It's not very few and far between, but it's like very rarely can you find something that is you could point to and say that is the reason for X, Y, and Z, right? But you can look at Space Ghost Coast to Coast and you can say, without that show, Cartoon Network doesn't go very long. Without that show, Adult Swim never happens. Without that show, you don't get Harvey Birdman, you don't get Venture Brothers, you don't get Rick and Morty, you don't get any show, Family Guy, any show that you grew up with loving from Adult Swim, you do not get if Space Ghost Coast to Coast does not come off as a juggernaut.
Yes, definitely.
So that's our Space Ghost Coast to Coast love, and I'm glad we got to do a little talking about that, because that's actually our next video that'll drop on April 17th. Hopefully, probably might drop a little bit after that, just in case, because like I said, I'm still working on that one. But by the time this video comes out, that one will have already been dropped. So make sure you check that one out. So we talked a little bit how you got into Cartoon Network. What were some of those shows for the Cartoon Fridays? And what a cartoon that you absolutely could not miss, man. You had to park your ass there and you weren't moving no matter what happened.
Cartoon Fridays as a whole, that 7 o'clock lineup all the way till midnight. That was like the perfect lineup. Dexter, Courage, Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo, Ed and Nettie, Cow and Chicken. Man, that was my childhood. That whole lineup was my childhood.
Yeah.
And even the later shows like Time Squad, I still love Time Squad. Actually gotten back and watched some old episodes. I was like, wow, this is really funny.
Yeah.
Been meaning to go back on watching Sheep in the Big City. And Mike Lewinog, I remember not liking that much when it came on. I remember being a little bored by it, but I'm ready to give it another chance. See a role.
The animation style is fun.
Yeah, it reminds me of old classy Shupo stuff.
Yes.
Oh, speaking of which, I'm actually in a brainstorming idea
Mm-hmm.
for a new retrospective, and
Oh.
people are loving my Hanna-Barbera retrospectives.
Mm-hmm.
I I'm in the process of developing a retrospective for classic Shupo. That could be a lot of fun.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll talk off air, and I might be able to point you in the direction of a couple people that had some firsthand experience with that studio.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely, man. It's the least I could do. So out of that original lineup, and what's crazy, right, is you hear that lineup: Dexter's Lab, Cow and Chicken, Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo, Courage the Cowardly Dog, right? That could literally be an entire Mount Rushmore plus an honorable mention just on that initial lineup, right? Those shows literally changed my life, your life,
Mhm.
millions of kids' lives. I mean, you can't really see it. I mean, you can kind of see stuff on the background that I'm painting, but I'm literally projecting a whole bunch of cartoon characters back there, and I'm starting the process of permanent marker. So you can kind of see Samurai Jack's sword, and then right behind that is Mighty Mouse, and then above him is Frankenstein Jr. with his arms from The
Oh,
Impossibles. Yeah, so I'm doing from left to right. Every character that has ever meant anything to me is going up on that wall, and it's probably going to take me at least a year to 2 years to get everything up, and then because it's going to be colored as well, so I'm going to have to pull all the palettes and it's going to be expensive, unfortunately. I've already started looking at the prices just on paint, and fuck, is that shit expensive. But so every character is going to go up there, man. But talking about some of those characters that you mentioned, I had just mentioned, man, what were like the shows you could not miss? If you had to pick 2 or 3 shows out of an entire Cartoon Network for Cartoon Fridays from the entire era and generation, what are those 3 shows that you would not miss no matter what?
hmm. Um, Original Powerpuff Girls,
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Bravo, and number one would be Ed, Edd n Eddy.
Yeah, what was it? I see. I love when somebody brings up Ed and Eddy because that's kind of like how I got on the map in a sense, even though I'm not on the map at all. I'm like a blip. If anything, I'm a blink and you miss me. But getting to deep dive into that entire catalog of voice actors, writers, and animators, it was an absolute blast, and I treasure those moments a lot. But what was it specifically about Ed and Eddy for you?
Well, before I go on that, the video you made that went viral with you interviewing the voice actors for Ed, Edd n
Yeah,
Eddy, that was the first video I saw for you, and I
yeah.
remember loving it so much. Next to the Robert Alvarez video, that was probably my favorite from you.
We got a
Um,
second one coming out with Robert next week, so stay tuned.
that's right. I think I
Yeah, it's
question too.
oh, I think we answered yours one. I believe it's been a while since we recorded that one. That was like 2.5 hours of him just, I think it was 2.5 hours. It was a long podcast, and I had a blast. I always have a blast talking with him.
Okay. Um, Now what I'm about to get into. Oh yeah, about Ed and Eddy. I always uh I always consider it as Peanuts' older rebellious brother.
Yes. Oh, it's
And
such a great analogy.
what's funny about that too is like every character in Ed and Eddy is identifiable, and that's what I
Hmm.
like about it. I'm a big character guy. I love characters. All those all the kids in Ed and Eddy, you either knew or were growing up.
Hmm.
And I was in a, and I was and growing up, I was a loner. I didn't have much friends. I was a little geek, and I always identified with the losers. I love the Eds. I love Cat Dog. I
Yeah.
love the Offbeat. I love characters like that
Hmm.
that were just kind of like off to the side where everybody else do their own thing.
Absolutely, man. And you got a favorite character in that Ed, Edd n Eddy series, and then do you have a favorite episode or two that you absolutely love?
Hmm. Let me see. My favorite Ed would be Eddy,
Hmm.
and my favorite Ed would be Eddy. Ugh, excuse me. My favorite Ed would be Eddy because there's so much layers to him. It's like he's a
Absolutely.
jerk. He's a jackass. He's like he yells at people. He's got a
Mhm.
Napoleon complex, but like you do like see like he could be really like he
He
cares about
cares.
his friends. Ed and Nettie, I mean Ed and Double D are like his brothers.
Hmm.
Like the brothers like he never really had.
Absolutely. What episodes stick out to you that like whenever you think about that show, you think about these two episodes?
Just so many. Mm, the
Or
season four
let's
finale, take this Ed and shove it when they're all when it when they're all old. It is like I
yes.
remember about that so much. And another one is probably like, you know what? Another one would probably be the if it smells like an egg. I know a lot of people don't hit a lot of people hate that episode, but I remember just being like I remember it was like kind of like it kind of made me realize, wow, they don't ever get a break. And it's
Yeah.
like even with Jimmy, like even with Jimmy setting them up, even though Eddie was the one who did give him a wedgie, all of them had to suffer. And it's like, wow,
Hmm.
this show is kind of dark, but it's actually kind of funny.
Yeah. It truly is, man. It's crazy going back and seeing everything from a different lens, right? So I talked about this with Robert when I had Robert on, and I told him like when Cooper, my youngest at this time, was born, I would go back and I would rewatch Samurai Jack, and it's insane because I hadn't watched that show in so long. And to
Mm.
say that I would have appreciated Samurai Jack as a 12, 13-year old, I would have kicked my own ass if I said that at 12 or 13 years old and I can go back in time because it could not be further from the truth, man. Watching that show through the eyes that I've watched it now as an adult, it's just like, fuck, dude, there's no way I could have appreciated this. Ed and Eddie is in that same vein. Going back and then having like all of these discussions with these people that worked on the show and then pointing out like, hey man, what'd you slip in? Because that was like a real big thing in my first year because I'd always heard these stories about people slipping stuff in. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the strip club, but you see the strip club pop up on a couple different occasions. Like you see the name pop up in places. There's like a poster or a t-shirt or something like that, or there's a note on there with the strip club name that everybody would go to on Friday nights on payday. And then everybody was getting lap dances. If it was your birthday, you were especially getting lap dances. People were getting fucked up on alcohol. They were just having a great time. And it was very punk rock because you look at the crowd and it's like a bunch of punk rockers. But one
Where
thing I
was
learned
this?
from that, what's that?
Where was this?
One more time. I'm sorry. I cut out just a little bit.
I'm sorry. When was this? Where's this? The strip club?
Oh, this is when they're
Soho?
in Vancouver. Yeah, they're in
Oh
Vancouver.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, you're fine. But and it was something Apple. The fans will probably correct me, but as soon as I get off this, I'm gonna go and Google it and then I'll figure it out. But like every single one of the guests brought that up, like strip clubs. You know, it was a party. Everybody was super tight. It was family. It was the hardest place they'd ever worked. But Danny brought the best out in everybody, and it's just like I don't think you get a show like that. I don't think you get a fan base like that if you don't go through the shit that they went through together, right? That very hard time of just, hey, this isn't good. This sucks. Fucking fix it, man. So it really pressure does two things is what I'm getting at, Isaiah. It either busts pipes or it creates diamonds. And every single person on that animation team, that voice acting team, from cast and crew, from A to Z, man, they were all diamonds in my eyes. I absolutely adore that show.
Yeah, I admire Danny. Danny is an artist. And like
Oh
he
yeah.
doesn't he's like he hates CGI. He loves
Hmm.
hand drawn. A big advocate for hand drawn animation. And like I see him like I see him like similar. I don't even know. I don't know if they met or anything, but I see him similar to like Jindy. Like
Hmm.
uh not to like put down any other cartoon creators, but they definitely are very passionate about the medium they're in, and also I heard stories about how hard Danny works to make any detail in the show just right.
Hmm.
Not unlike not comparing him to him or anything, but kind
Yeah.
of similar to John K. Fuck that guy, but
Absolutely, man.
yeah,
That
but
was a
they
show I
kind of
could
got
never get into.
Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, I've tried. Maybe I don't know, man. Maybe if you're a fan of it, you might be able to convince me to watch it one more time. But I tried watching it a couple years ago because it's the same concept, man. John Kay is such a oh man, I don't like shitting on people, but he's
Yeah,
such a
I didn't mean to bring that up. I'm sorry.
oh no, you're perfectly fine, man, because that's the feeling and that's a feeling for a lot of folks, man. He's a very Man, he's a very controversial character. I don't know too much about it. I knew know from quite a few things I heard. He doesn't sound like a very good person.
Yeah,
I've heard some very bad stories. Um, but you look at a show like Ren and Stimpy, right? And it's transformative for so many people, especially a lot of those Ed and Eddy folks. A lot of people just fucking pulled inspiration from what was going on in Ren and Stimpy. And I feel like it was one of those shows that I missed because I was too young when it hit. And then, my version of what Rocco or not Rocco's Modern Life, what my version of Ren and Stimpy probably was to me was like Rocco's Modern Life, man. That was probably as like weird as I could get into with the what they call them, the gross, the close. What was the terminology for it? Was like the close up. Was it gross up? Was that the term?
you had it right. The close up
Yeah.
shot or gross up. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like that era. Like I would see shit like that, and that was the only comparison. I like that one because it seemed it didn't seem as mean. Like Ren and Stimpy. I mean, he was just an asshole, to his friend, and you saw the lovingness, from time to time, but it just that show it's eluded me for 34 years now. I can't get into it. I understand the importance of it. That was a foundational piece of Nickelodeon, that Doug and Rugrats, man. And so many people, Bob Camp doesn't get brought up enough. He's a
Yeah.
phenomenal animator and director, and I
Nice
feel
show
like
too.
yeah, that's all I've ever heard is such the greatest guy in the world, man. And then, I don't want to say his reputation is marred because everybody loves Bob Camp, but it's just like the fact that he is so influential to so many people. And then when you Google shit like Ren and Stimpy or John Kay and Bob Camp's name comes up, he's not attached in a sense where it's like he did whatever John Kay did, but it's just like you have to wade through all of that bullshit before you can get to see and give somebody like Bob Camp their flowers. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Well,
It's
I think for me, I like Ren and Stimpy for its art. think
yeah,
Rocco, I think Rocco has a bit more substance to it. And even I had a complete DVD set a while ago, and I was rewatching some episodes,
hmm,
and it kind of I related to it as from being on. I've been on my own, living alone since 2017, and all the stuff that happens in the show. Well, not all of it, but I can relate to most of the stories there. It's
yeah,
over silly, but it's still like a show made towards adults.
hmm,
One thing that comes to mind, the episode when Rocco's go shopping is he has he has a coupon, I believe, and it's like if uh before he has to do shopping around time, or else he doesn't eat for like a week. I remember
yeah,
having moments like those.
hmm.
And also, I think the characters are a lot better too. And yeah, Ren and Stimpy is definitely like a show that's pleasing. Well, in my opinion, is pleasing to the eye as far as the wacky, more gross stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, Rocco's like better on characters and stuff like that.
Absolutely, man. And it's not like it's a dig at anybody that ever worked on Ren and Stimpy because I like I
No, no,
said, I
no, no, no.
understand. Yeah, I understand. Let me give a basketball reference. Like Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, man.
Yeah,
One of the greatest to ever do it. To say I like Kobe Bryant is couldn't be further from the truth, man, because he took Orlando Magic's chance of winning a title. He crushed my dreams as a teenager, man. He fucking took all the hopes I had. I was like, this is going to be the year Orlando wins it. This is our year. And then Kobe Bryant destroyed us, man. So I was a fan of his game. I was a fan of what he meant to the league. I was a fan of what he meant to an organization, to an entire generation and future generations of people to come. I understood his importance, man, but it's the same. I draw the same parallel to Ren and Stimpy. I understand its importance. I understand how hard all of those people worked. It's just, there's things out there that are for you, and there's things that aren't out there, or that are out there that aren't for you, man. And maybe, like I said, maybe I got to give it just one more shot, man. Maybe third time's the charm, and I might find something. Like I said, it's a funny show. It's beautifully drawn. It's everything a cartoon is supposed to be. It's wacky. The stretch and squashes. I mean, the writing was really fun, but it's just like, I don't know what it was. It's just, and it was just, I don't want to say it off-putting in a bad way, but it's just like, like I said, there's some things that are for you and there's some things that aren't for you. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. I feel the same way about movies like Avatar, stuff like that.
Oh man,
Or
I can't
something
get into
like,
it.
yeah, something like really classic films like The Gone with the Wind is hailed as one of the greatest movies. It's hailed as one of the greatest movies of all time. I think it's racist as shit.
Dude,
I don't
I've been
like
doing
it.
this
I hate it.
podcast for I've been doing this podcast for 3 years. You're the first person that's ever brought up Gone with the Wind, and I fucking love it, man. I've never enjoyed that movie whatsoever. But the fact
Oh,
that
it makes my blood boil. I don't like it.
I don't blame you, man.
I'm
It's not
sorry,
a
I don't
good
like it.
one. Yeah, but it's just wild. 3 years, and that's the first time that movie has ever come up on this podcast, man. When I set out today, I don't know if you thought you were ever going to mention Gone with the Wind here on the What's My Head podcast, Isaiah, but man, I'm glad you did, because boy, oh boy, they had some shitty movies back in the day, man. No smoke for me on any side. If you like that movie, that's you. I don't ever yuck somebody's yum. You like what you like and you don't like what you don't like. But I've tried that one. What was the other really, really big one? Was it Casablanca? Tried that one. Not for me. I would watch all these old school movies with my grandpa, and that's like I've brought it up on multiple occasions. Like, my grandpa was the one that kind of like instilled in me like looking into the credits and stuff, because we would watch a show and then he would say, "Oh, that guy was on such and such, or he was on MASH, and then he was on like the A Team, right?" Or a writer, or something along those lines. And then these folks would come up, and it would just like make me, like I said, look at the credits. And he was like my first inspiration, I guess, if I can really boil it down and look back. It's like, that's kind of why I started the podcast, because I wanted to know more about the people that were in the credits that don't really get the play, or don't really get to talk to people or tell people their contributions to what they did, because it takes a village to really raise a brand new IP when it comes to animation. It's a collaboration from start to finish. So it was, like I said, it was my grandpa that kind of instilled in me to like, hey man, look at the credits, like look at what he did and what she did and what they all did together, and then what they went on to do future down the road, what they were doing. So it's, without him, man, I don't really see those credits, and without him, I don't really start doing this, I think, man. It's an interesting thing to look back on and see, man, what changes or what paths could I went down and not been in the place I'm at now,
I mean, as far as Casablanca goes, it's still this. I can stomach that a little better, but I think maybe that's also because I grew up watching that the Bugs Bunny short Carrot Blanca.
Phenomenal pull, by the way, and such a great episode. So we've hit that hour mark, man, and I've had a lot of fun, but I figure we can do a couple things here, and then we'll hit some questions. Yeah, man, it goes by quick, doesn't it? Especially when you're having fun.
Pay attention to time.
Absolutely, man. When you're having fun, the only reason I saw what time it was because my mouse moved over here. I'm like, oh shit, we've been going for an hour. But so I figure we'll do something fun, because like I said, you got my favorite retrospective for animation on the old YouTubes, as the kids like to say. And I know by the time this one drops, your new video will be out. And I know it was a Scooby-Doo video, and I know your love for Scooby-Doo. So before we talk about your Scooby-Doo video that you're going to be doing for your YouTube channel, man, make sure you check out 47 Cartoon Guy. Those links will be in the description below. So point, click, and go. Make sure you give Isaiah a follow and say, hey, man, I really like what you do. But before we get to that, man,
I know how important Scooby-Doo is to you, and it's very important to me. So I would love for the fans to know that might not know your love for Scooby-Doo and how that kind of came to be, man. But how does Scooby-Doo? Why does that one stick out so much and is so influential to you?
Well, well, again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's definitely the characters,
Hmm.
and I really think that's why they lasted so long. I remember watching. I think that was one of the big ones I remember being introduced to on Cartoon Network, and at the same time, they were also running it on the Turner stations like
Hmm.
TBS and TNT. This was back when they were still airing kids' cartoons in the afternoon. But also, yeah, I love these characters. Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby. Of course, of being me, I love Shaggy and Scooby the most. Uh, it's like their best buds. That you love, they love to eat. I love to eat.
Absolutely. Me too,
Uh,
man.
it's like evil. It's funny because I have a book about the memoirs of the designer of Scooby Doo and Hanna Barbera in general, Iwo Takamoto. He actually called them Scooby and Shaggy the smartest characters in the show because they
Really?
didn't wanted to go in the spooky house or go on dangerous missions and stuff like that.
Hmm. It makes sense.
And yeah, I loved Scooby Doo. Scooby Doo, Where Are You? The original will always
Hmm.
be the best to me. Everyone, I feel like everyone loves Mystery Incorporated more, and that's fine. I love it too, but I really think people should go back and watch the original. Yeah, it's simple, but simple. Well, I don't think I don't like simple the way I don't like simple being a bad word.
Hmm.
There's so much substance in like simple things.
Absolutely.
It was Saturday morning cartoons in the 60s and 70s. There's a lot you can but there's still a lot you can love about it. It's like when I watch an episode I remember loving even as a kid, Spooky Space Kook.
Oh, that's a
I
good
could
one.
watch I could watch episode now and just look at the backgrounds with the brown
Hmm.
sky and everything, the design of the Space Kook, the laugh, which was actually Don Messick, if you don't know.
With
Um,
with as many times as you've seen it, can you do the laugh?
I cannot do the laugh. I could do a good Scooby Doo.
Oh, let's
Let me
hear it,
see.
man. We haven't had too many Scooby-Doo impressions.
Okay, let me think of something to say. Oh boy.
Dude, that's fucking good.
Yeah, I say if this cartoon and animation thing doesn't work out, I can always be Frank Welker's voice double.
Dude, that's
Scooby
fucking awesome.
Doo.
Dude, that's really good, man. I don't think I've ever had a Scooby-Doo impression on the show either. So, man, you're batting 1,000 or whatever. I don't watch baseball, so I don't want the fans out there to think, I know what I'm talking about. I think I've heard somebody say you're batting 1,000, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I'm going to count it as a good thing, man, because we talked Gone with the Wind and how much of a piece of shit movie that one is, and then Casablanca's up there too. And then we just had our first ever Scooby-Doo impression. You're welcome, fans, because that was a really good one. So before we get off the Scooby-Doo train, man, I know you said you were working on a Scooby-Doo video. So without giving too much away, but what can the fans expect when that video drops here in just a few short weeks? By the time you're listening to this, it's already dropped, ladies and gentlemen.
Similar to a video I made about the evolution of home media releases of the Scooby Doo on like video and stuff, the compilation of videos and DVDs. But I'm talking about something about, but I'm talking about the directed video movies, and
Hmm.
I think that's worth talking about, especially where directed video was at the time. Was the first one, Zombie Island, was released.
Oh,
Like
so
when
good.
Disney came in and was doing the directed video movies, all these other family franchises were all doing directed videos. What was it? Land Before Time, Swamp
Mhm.
Princess, for little kids, Barney, all that stuff. I think that will be interesting to cover too.
Absolutely, man. I'm really looking forward to that one. And ladies and gentlemen, make sure, like I said, the link for that video will be right there, so you can click on it and go watch it. So make sure you hit up Isaiah and tell him what you think about the video, but also make sure you subscribe to that channel, man, because I have a lot of fun watching your videos. Like I said, your sense of humor for sure comes through, and just like I said, pure joy and amazement of what you're watching. And then, just like I said, a true fan through and through. You can really pick up, just like I said, your love for what you're doing. And I really appreciate something like that. So before we get out of here, man, we've got some questions that I've started to use because I've had a lot of fun with them. So the first one, I kind of gave you the old what was it, pre-gaming, I think is what the kids like to call it. So you get a Mount Rushmore. So you get 4 people on your Mount Rushmore plus 1 as an honorable mention. This is people like animators, if you can do all animators, or anybody that's inspired you to do what you do now.
My biggest influences would be for my Mount Rushmore. Definitely William Hanna, Joseph Barbera, Iwo Takamoto,
Ooh, that's a
Danny
good pull.
Antonucci. The fourth one would be designer Dan Haskett.
That's another great pull.
I love that guy. I just love his work.
Right on, man. And then who would be your honorable mention?
Honorable mention. Let me see. Don Bluth. Yeah, Don Bluth.
What did you think of his new book?
I loved it. It was very fun to read. It's funny because I remember being in high school, I was rediscovering all those old movies. And I had this brief anti-CGI phase, and I was going back watching all the 2D Disney stuff, all the old Hanna-Barbera movies like Charlotte's Web, and the Don Bluth ones I especially love revisiting, the good ones anyway. I'll take that back. Even the bad ones, they have some sort of value in it, especially with the art and animation.
Absolutely. And that I've got it right here because I was talking about it with somebody not too long ago. I'll see if I can't get a good shot of it. But my wife Katie had gotten this for me for my I think it was our anniversary last year, but it's Charlie B. Barkin from All Dogs Go to Heaven. And yeah, All Dogs Go to Heaven. Yes, that was John Pomeroy for sure. Yeah. So that was my favorite character from anything Don Bluth of all time. So I got to get Scratchy up on the wall next, man. But yeah, I absolutely love Don Bluth cartoons.
Did you watch Titan AE?
I watched a little bit of it, not too much, because that was kind of during that era where I was kind of starting to outgrow cartoons, but not really, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't remember when it first came out. I might have remembered a commercial showing the toys or whatever, but I actually discovered it. Well, not discovered it, but rediscovered it back when I was in high school, and I remember falling in love with it. It's definitely that early 2000s sci-fi cheesiness, with stuff like, it's kind of similar to stuff like Farscape or whatever like that. It's like, that soundtrack, man, you can't get more early 2000s than like Lit, or what was the other band? Fuck it. Yeah, Creed was in the trailer. Higher.
Good old Creed. Oh, I get shit on for liking that band so much. Like, I understand they're a Christian rock group, and I understand the lead singer at that time was, crazy, like most people are when you give somebody that's young a shit ton of money, and then he was going through his mental health struggles, so I can never count that guy out because, like I said, it's not anybody's fault if they have cancer. It's not anybody's fault if they were born with a mental issue. I heard somebody say it's not your fault that you have it, but it is on you. It is your responsibility to make sure you're getting medicated or getting the help you need, I think is the better word. But I love like that first album. I think it's just called Human Clay from Creed. I remember that coming out And then I remember specifically, it's crazy when you can like point. Remember that scene in Ratatouille where Ego, he's eating the ratatouille that Remy sends him and he drops that fork on the plate and then he's transported back in time. You remember that scene?
Yeah.
So it's funny what food can do, and it's also funny that music can do that same thing. Like you hear a song that you haven't heard in a long time, you get transported just for a split second like that, right? You get transported to like you at a specific point in time when you heard that. And here's the thing. I remember us driving up to West Virginia to go visit my grandma and my grandpa. This is probably 98, 99, somewhere around there. Powerpuff Girls is in its heyday. Like there wasn't a shit ton of Powerpuff Girls merchandise, but I remember we were talking Game Boy Advance games, I think before we hit record. But we had the Powerpuff Girls game because my little sister loved the Powerpuff Girls. I really enjoyed the Powerpuff Girls. And we had the Game Boy Advance game. And I remember playing this game, and then we stopped at a Walmart. And like I said, it's around Christmas time. It's snowing a lot. And then my mom and my stepdad, like they were driving us and stuff. And I remember my stepdad picking up the album Creed. And he was like, "Oh shit, I forgot this in the truck. I wanted to listen to this on the way up to your parents' house." So we listened to that fucking soundtrack like back and front, like 5, 6 straight times. And then like I said, I look back at Creed and I know a lot of people shit on them. A lot of people shit on Nickelback. I like Nickelback too. They got some great songs. I find some what's it like security in listening to Creed, as dumb as douchey as that sounds, finding security in a band like that. But I love that first album. It's so fun, man.
Julian, what you said about music, it's funny because I've been revisiting Clone High recently, and it's a
Yes.
show I fell in love with.
Mhm.
I didn't grow up with it because it was like 2002. I wasn't watching MTV at the time. I was like 9 years old. Um, the music in that show is definitely transports me back to like early
Yeah.
2000s. Something I would have heard of like what was like Nick Pick of the Week. You know that little
Yeah.
remember on Nickelodeon they would show like during like Snig it would show like Nick Pick of the Week. It would show like
Mhm.
snippets of little music videos before commercials.
Yeah.
Like that was like early like all of listening to bands like in the show for like Abandoned Pools and Dashboard Confessional stuff like that. It really it really is a time capsule.
It really is, man. It's funny, like I said, it's funny what food can do because you can remember the first time you ever had your favorite dish for the most part, or you can remember, like I said, that scene in Ratatouille, man. That'll go down as like one of the greatest scenes in anything I've ever seen in my life. I put that scene up there, and it just happens to be they're both directed by the same guy, Brad Bird. That guy, visionary. That guy is so brilliant. That guy is goddamn, like whatever, like if they could bottle up what folks like him, what Gendy have, what Craig McCracken have, and they can bottle that shit up and sell it, man, we would have nothing but some of the greatest anythings ever created at any point in time. But that scene goes down with the Iron Giant, the Superman scene when he's flying off, man. That fucking gets me right in the feels every single time. And I think doesn't matter if
I
it's
love that.
animation. Oh, dude, he's so fucking good. And good is such an understatement, but those two scenes will go down as some of the greatest scenes in anything ever. Live action, fucking TV, animated, whatever the fuck it is. It's up there. It's in my top 5 of all time for scenes in general. So,
Iron Giant is
uh,
probably one of my oh go ahead.
what's that?
The Iron Giant is probably one of my favorite animated films at the time of all time, pretty much of all time. Is one of my favorite movies. And I remember when Cartoon Network would have marathons of it,
Mhm.
and it wasn't until I got older when I realized it wasn't a big hit. Because I watched on my spare time, I watch old commercials and stuff,
Yeah.
and from the looks of it, when I was watching all like old commercials from like '99 or whatever, from the
Mhm.
looks of it, it seemed like they didn't know how to market it too,
Yes.
because like the TV spots and commercials at the time just didn't really tell you much about the movie.
Mhm. They absolutely didn't, man. And getting to talk to some of the people that I've had on that have worked on the Giant, man, it's never amazing. obviously they don't know, because I've had this talk so many times with people. When I go, did you guys know what you were working on? They said no. Like, you don't expect, you hope is the word that most people use, that whenever whenever you make something, you put it out into the world, you hope it resonates with somebody. You hope it's going to be good, because, you never want to attach your name to something bad. But everybody I talked to that worked on The Giant said it was a phenomenal movie. And same thing. It was not marketed right. A lot of people, it's got a cult following now because it's just that good. It transcends so many people. I don't think I've ever asked somebody to say, hey, you ever seen The Iron Giant? And they say no. It's one of those movies. And then if you go back and you read the story on The Iron Giant, I think it might be less than 50 pages, and a lot of those pages are taken up by pictures. It's a child's book. Nothing like the movie, so they had to expound. It's the same thing with what was it called? Damn. Eddie Murphy, Mike. I don't know why I blanked on Shrek. Yeah. It was the same thing with Shrek. It was a very small, like, I think Shrek was only a couple pages long type of thing. It was a very small child's book, and then they had to build this entire world, man. So, like I said, hats off to Brad Bird forever and ever. I mean, two of the greatest movies of all time, and he did the Fantastic Four better than the Fantastic Four has ever done the Fantastic Four with The Incredibles. That first movie. Wow, chef's kiss, fucking perfect. Everything that guy does is fucking perfect.
Yeah, I don't know if you interviewed him yet, but Lance Fault, he's an animator. He said the same thing about The Incredibles being the best Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, no, I've never had him on. I'm gonna write his name down.
You know what? I would love to see Brad Bird tackle something like a Johnny Quest reboot, because I've been watching Johnny Quest again, and man, the art is so beautiful. It was expensive to do. It was expensive to do, especially in the '60s. But man, I just love the way everything is drawn. I just love the images, the designs, and everything.
It is a beautiful movie.
Yeah, Brad is a big fan, and I would know he would do that justice.
Dude, let's take a step back from the next question I'm going to ask you. You just made me think of a new one. If you got Johnny Quest, right, and you've got Brad Bird directing it, do you do a continuation? Now, this is if as Isaiah has all the money. Isaiah is a studio, right? So you have to put yourself in that mentality. But you've got Brad Bird and you've got the IP of Johnny Quest, right? And I absolutely love Johnny Quest. I know there's a lot of folks that have some things to say about Johnny Quest, but specifically just on the one character Haji because of his name. I've had the luxury of talking to a few people that are from the same area that look a lot like Haji, right? So it's hit or miss when it comes to people. It's kind of like with Apu and stuff like that. A lot of people think that, hey, this is from a specific point in time, right? But whenever you watch Johnny Quest, especially for me, but I'm like a white guy, so I can't really put words in everybody else's mouth. But I've heard a lot of people say they really enjoy the character Haji, folks that come from the same area that Haji came from. So they were like, I don't want to see that character change because it made us gave us somebody to cheer for that we look like, right? So, folks like me, I cheered for Dexter because he was a redheaded dude. I was the only redheaded dude. I was the only white dude in the entire neighborhood I lived at when I was from like first grade to fifth grade. We were the only white family in my entire neighborhood, so I thought that was like everywhere I went. And then when you start moving around and you start growing up, you're like, oh no, it's a melting pot. There's a whole bunch of different people. It's not just one or just two, there's a melting pot of people, so getting to see somebody like Dexter, even though I'm a white guy, right? There's a lot of things about white guys that are out there for me and for everybody else, but it's just like seeing a dude that looks like you, a redheaded dude. It's like, oh shit, this is why I connect with this show so much more, because I'm not as smart as Dexter is. I'm more of a Dee than I am a Dexter when it comes to a lot of shit. But like seeing yourself on a screen, it goes something to say. But like I said, if you were to take all that kind of like negative stuff out there, you could do the show as is with the characters as they are. Would you do a continuation of Johnny Quest? Would you do a older version of Johnny Quest, even though we kind of got that with the Venture Brothers? Or what would Isaiah do if he had all the money to push in for his studio to do Brad Bird and Johnny Quest? What is Isaiah wanting to do with Johnny Quest?
Well, I'm sick of origin stories, but but I realized that might be important because there might be audience that are familiar with the characters. So, hmm, are we doing TV show or movie?
You tell me, man. This is your money and this is your studio. You're calling the
Okay.
shots, big guy.
Well, movie, well, people have to like be reintroduced to the characters. So I think a TV show would be better. So maybe Brad could executive producer or direct some episodes. So I would do something like a more modernized take. Think of like Johnny Quest meets Generator Rex. Remember that old show?
Ooh, yes, I do.
As far as Haji goes, I remember, I remember saying in my Hanna-Barbera retrospective, is like the character, like he was, I think he meant a lot for people. He meant a lot to people who are at home who saw a character in a turban that wasn't a bad guy. He was as smart as his white co-stars. That doesn't excuse, of course, some of the other like unfortunate racial stuff from the times, but I think that is something worth noting. So I would keep Haji most the same. Maybe not do the Sim Salabim stuff. I noticed in the Tom and Jerry Johnny Quest crossover, I remember they didn't really do much of that, at least from what I remember. And
you know, if they did it with
generally,
I don't mean to cut you off, but do you know if you remember if they did it, was it the Real Adventures of Johnny Quest when Toonami was really starting to kick off? Do you remember if they did that? The Sim Salabim thing?
They might have.
Because I don't remember seeing it too much.
I remember loving that show, especially the intro. But I can imagine they had a little pushback. It's like, hey, it's the '90s now. We can't really do this. But I wouldn't be surprised if they put the kibosh on that.
Yeah.
Or they might have, or I don't know.
Absolutely, man. And I'm so glad you bring up Johnny Quest because that's one show that I would love to deep dive into. I'm pretty sure you're a lot like me in a sense that like a lot of these shows that we talk about, like a lot of those Hanna-Barbera shows, I am a huge Frankenstein Jr. fan. I love that. I love Jabberjaw, man. I love Josie and the Pussycats. Scooby-Doo, of course, man. The original Space Ghost. Thundar the Barbarian. I absolutely fucking love. The Godzilla that was done for Hanna-Barbera and Godzuki, I fucking love, man. The Flintstone kids, even though that was a little bit later, I know a lot of people shit on the Tom and Jerry kids, the Flintstone kids, what was the other one? Pup Named Scooby-Doo, even though I love A Pup Named Scooby. I love that whole 80s era.
You painted those?
What's that?
You painted those?
Oh, yeah, especially
Pup Named Scooby-Doo and stuff like that? I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I've met a lot of people that did not like that, and I've actually talked to quite a few people that have worked in the animation industry, and I can't remember who said this, but it was, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's essentially, it's your time to go in the animation industry when they've done your show and they've kidnized it, or they've I can't remember the exact term he used, but essentially taking your product and turning it into babies like Muppet Babies, or they made it for a smaller, like elementary style kids and shit like that for the same class, like the Flintstone kids, the Pup Named Scooby-Doo. I remember loving those shows growing up with them, seeing those, because it always felt like Scooby-Doo until I got just a tad bit older and I could understand, that it wasn't really just a pup named Scooby-Doo, or really wasn't Red Shirt Shaggy, even though I saw all of these original shows way before I saw A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. But like I said, it's something about representation when you can see yourself. You can cheer for a kid a little bit easier than you can cheer for an adult when you're a kid. And when you're an adult, you can cheer for an adult and you can cheer for a kid. You don't understand this. You don't have to have one or the other. You can do both, So I loved those shows growing up as a kid, man. So I would love to see some of those shows come back. But like I said, when I was talking about those shows, it's like, getting to like you go to sleep at like 8, 9 o'clock, and then you wake up 1, 2 o'clock in the morning or some shit like that. And then you see shows like Johnny Quest, or you see shows like Godzilla, or you see shows maybe like a SWAT Cats rerun or something along those lines, man. It was like something fun about that, discovering something that was new to you, but had been out in the zeitgeist, that had been out in the public for decades then at that point, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. So go ahead.
As far as Scooby-Doo goes, I don't think it belongs to the same category as like Elementary, Muppet Baby, stuff like that. Because like
Mhm.
it was kind of like a Looney Tunes take on Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
It's sort of like Looney Tunes meets the Ralph Bakshi Mighty Mouse, sort of like
Yes.
that. And
Great pull, man.
it was really really funny. I People hating it is new on me.
Hmm. Yeah,
I'm
no, I've
sure
met
it's not a
some.
lot. I'm
Well,
sure
I've
it's
just
not a
met
lot.
some people that did. No, it wasn't too many. It's been a couple people that I've had on the show that did really like what was it? Like I said, just working on shows that were already classics, because a lot of people do reboots because they're going to cash in on somebody else's nostalgia. Essentially, that's why you see a lot of reboots, and there's not a lot of original ideas out there anymore, because a lot of I think Fred Seibert said this. It's a lot harder to kind of go on maybe it wasn't Fred Seibert, so I don't want to say it was Fred Seibert, but I remember it was somebody up there saying it's a lot harder to cash in on something new. It's unproven and it doesn't have a track record. It's a lot easier to say, hey man, we're gonna do something, we're gonna do Powerpuff Girls again. And that's not a shot at Craig, but it's like we're gonna do this again because the studios will have an easier time signing off on something, because like, oh, they have a fan base already. So this is going to be a little bit easier. I can't wait to see Craig's take on the Powerpuff Girls, because I think that's what was 100% wrong in the 2016 is they didn't have Craig, right? You didn't have anybody really that worked on that show before. And I really feel like that if you have a creator of something and they're still around and you're not using them to talk about their characters, or help usher in this new generation of animators and writers, I think you're doing not only your company a disservice, but you're doing the fans a disservice. And you saw that with how quickly that 2016 reboot kind of got the axe really quick, man.
Yeah, Robert Alvarez, I believe, was the timing worked timing on
Yes.
the reboot. I think he was the only one that came back. But
Hmm.
as far as girls go, I remember even like in the late 2000s, it was kind of on decline for a while though. Chris Savino was in charge. Craig
Hmm.
was doing Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and that whole era, I don't remember. I remember not really liking it that much. The only episode from the Savino era I remember really loving was that whole tribute to Rocky and Bullwinkle. That was really funny. Um, but yeah, it's like I really hope this whole regurgitating old IPs will at least will retire for a while, or because like, and I hope people will like look at what Jindy is doing. I saw the trailer for his new show, and I really love it. It's like I man, I really hope a new era of cartoon creators making original ideas and having them be successful. I really hope that's on the horizon. I mean, I would love to create my own cartoon someday. Of course, you probably know about my own cartoon, Sydney and Rob.
Absolutely.
Even it's funny because as a teen, when I was developing it in high school, I always have pictured it going on Cartoon Network.
Mm. That'd be really cool to see full circle, man. I can just
Yeah,
imagine you. I can see whenever they make the movie about Isaiah, the 47 cartoon guy, when they make this documentary, I can see like the initial shot is you sitting in front of a TV, and then your eyes are wide as a little kid, and then you're just absorbing all of what a cartoon and cartoon Fridays, and then you're seeing all of this shit go on, and then that's how your documentary starts about your life. Right there is that initial scene, and then you see Sydney and Rob pop up when you're doing your little high school thing, and then you come back to it and you're doing videos and you're doing all this crazy shit. So I could see this as a movie, Isaiah. I can't wait for this movie to happen. So like I said, I would love to see your show get picked up by Cartoon Network one day. I think it would be a full circle moment, you know?
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Absolutely, man. So we'll wrap it up with a couple more questions, man. So this one's been something that I have a lot of fun with because obviously, hit the mic. Obviously, I'm a food guy. I work in the industry and I love eating. And I love animators too, right? So this is kind of like the Mount Rushmore question, but we kind of put in a couple other levels to it, right? So you get 5 guests, dead or alive. They could be animators, background painters, they could be creators, they can be voice actors. It doesn't matter, right? Anybody that's worked in animation, dead or alive, you can invite 5 people plus you to a dinner party, right? So who's the 5 people you're bringing? What are you cooking? And what are you going to start the conversation with? What topic are you going to pick?
A mix of animators and voice actors. I would love to. Well, first of all, I work in the restaurant industry, but I'm a dishwasher. So, um, I don't want to say something I already did, but Don Messick, voice actor.
Okay.
So I don't know. Chuck Jones.
That's a great list already.
John's Butler.
Ooh.
Ferret.
Oh, damn, Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Um,
Yep, one more.
Wanted to be an animator this time. He's alive. Another one of my influences, Bruce W. Smith.
Oh, you got 5, man. So what are you cooking? And then what's
Hmm.
going to be the topic you pull up first?
I'm a shitty cook, but they're not gonna want what I'm eating, what I'm making them.
Well, you could buy pizza. We've heard people buy pizza. I think one of the last interviews I did, they're like, man, I'm just ordering Domino's because I can't cook to save my life. So you can order in if you want.
You know what? I'll make some chicken party from Hello Fresh and then pass it off as my own cooking.
Yeah.
How about that?
That's called being resourceful, ladies and gentlemen. That's what that is, man. All right. So what's the first question you're going to ask everybody? Not individually, but like you guys got a group table. Everybody's talking about animation. What's going to be the first topic you guys are trying to discuss at the beginning of the night?
Creating characters. Like
Creating
I said,
characters.
like I said before, I'm a big character guy. I love characters, especially like the ones you know, like the ones that have stood the test of time. What's the process of creating a character that will last so long, that everyone loves, adults, kids, grandparents, all that stuff.
Beautiful, man. And I figure we can end it with this one. This is one of my favorite ones too. So you could be on a fly on the wall for any created character in the cartoon pantheon of history, man. So you could be there from the inception of that character's birth. What character would you love to see created?
You know what? SpongeBob. Because I don't think anyone imagined what a mega phenomenon it would have been. I would have loved to see like Steven Hillenburg or Derek Draymond and all those people and Tom Kenny. I would have loved to see their reactions when they found out this was gonna be a hit. I would love to be like Marty McFly from Back in the Future, like go back in time and tell them like, hey, this show is gonna be a big success.
Dude, I would love I would love to see, obviously, everybody dies eventually, but the fact that like 2 big people from that show are no longer here, and that's Steven and Tuck Tucker, man.
Oh God.
Man, I would love to see, what they think about what everybody says about their art, man, because it's like knowing so many stories like that one hurts probably the most. I mean, Tuck Tucker, I would have loved to have, like, selfishly, I think it's kind of fucked up to say, man, I wish he was still alive, because I would love to interview him, because I'm sure his family would love for him to be alive, and his friends would love for him to be alive, because they miss their husband, or they miss their best friend, they miss their dad, they miss their coworker, that type of shit. So it's kind of shitty to say I wish he was still alive so I could interview him, but it's just like
Yeah.
you hear so many stories about a person like Tuck, and then you hear how many people that Tuck influenced. It's just fucking wild. And if there's one thing I hope that everybody that I've ever had on here knows, it's just like everybody appreciates, and me in particular, if I ever ask somebody on, it's because I appreciate what you guys do. Like I said, I appreciate the fuck out of your YouTube videos, man. I appreciate being able to just like reach out and talk to you on Facebook Messenger and pick your brain from time to time. But it's the same thing with all of my guests, man. I fucking appreciate what they do and how they do it, and like how they got to doing what they're doing. So it's just a fascinating conversational piece, just getting to sit here and getting to like kind of walk in you guys' shoes for just a little bit and see how you guys approach something, or see what you think of, or see what things make you tick, both in a good and bad way, and then what inspires you to keep going, man. So I think, like I said, I think that's what's so fun about this. And there's so many people that I wish were still around, that are no longer here, sadly. But I think that's something good as well, because we get to keep their memories alive by talking about them, kind of like what we're doing now.
Oh, you know what? Let's go. Going back to your other question, I want to add somebody.
Yeah, who you gonna add?
Joe Ruby and Ken Spears. They don't
Oh,
really get they don't really get enough credit for the animation industry,
hmm
especially when helping the well helping like create Scooby-Doo back at Hanna-Barbera, but also some of their own stuff for their studio too. I know a lot of it isn't what you would say good, like Turbo
yeah,
Teen, about that show about the kid who turns into a car. But
yeah.
I think Thundar is probably the best thing they ever
Oh,
did. Like you said, I think it's better than He-Man. Filmation Bros
oh,
coming.
I'm going to agree with you here, 100%. I love it so much better. The only thing that I think could give Thundar and He-Man a run for their money, and Thundercats, man. Thundercats
Oh,
is
okay.
so fucking amazing. Thunder, thunder, Thundercats. Oh, it's just like getting to have so many talks with folks, and then getting to discuss shows like those that you brought up. But like I said, Thunder the Bear Band it's that one. I'm so afraid to go back. I don't know if you've ever been afraid to go back and rewatch something that you absolutely loved as a kid, because you're afraid it might not hold up and you might fucking end up hating it. But that's like the
Well,
one show where I'll only watch a couple minutes of it here and there.
I have a whole box set of Warner Bros. Released a box set called Saturday Morning Cartoons,
Hmm
70s, 60s to 80s, stuff like that. I got a whole box set of that, and it got a Thunder episode, and it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Of course, like any show from that era, there's some silly moments, but I think it still holds up. I definitely recommend going back and checking it out.
So what you're saying is, by the end of the year, are we going to have a Thundar the Barbarian retrospective from 47 Cartoon Guy? I would love to see it, because I know I'm going to do one soon.
You know what? Maybe you will. Maybe we
Ah,
will. Maybe we will.
I
Oh,
would love to see it.
Speaking of Thundercats, did you ever get to interview Larry Kennedy?
Yes, I did. I had Larry on, I think my first year or so. I
Oh,
felt like I really peaked because I had Rob Paulson on my first episode. I think Billy West was like episode 9 or 10. And then Larry Kenny was actually in my first 30 or so episodes, I believe. And you know what's even funnier? You remember, oh shit. What was it called? Fuck. Man, it was today. Oh shit. I'm so fucking mad that I can't remember this because it was one of those shows that I watched on VH1, and was it The Day in the Life of? No, it wasn't. Shit. I'm gonna fucking feel like a piece of shit for the rest of the day. We're gonna pause this, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back because I had a brain fart there, man, and it was best week ever, man. Larry Kenny. It always sucks when you go like, man, I got this really cool trivia, and then you can't remember the trivia you're trying to give everybody, Isaiah. It makes you look stupid. For sure. Man, weed, ladies and gentlemen, right? Blame it on the weed, not on my heart. But Larry Kenny was the voice of the Skittles, See the Rainbow, Taste the Rainbow. So he was the voice of that. And then he was also the voice of Best Week Ever, a VH1 show that I used to watch all the time as a kid. And I'm not going to go and try to do another trivia because I'm just going to fuck that one up. But he is, nope, we're just going to end it with that one. So those are the shows that I remember. And he was the voice of Lion-O from Thundercats, man.
And he was also the voice of Sonny the Cuckoo Bird from Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah. Man, these guys. Oh, shit. And I believe he was Lucky. I'm pretty sure he's Lucky from Lucky Charms. I could be wrong on that one. Lucky? I'm pretty sure it was Lucky. I'm probably fucking wrong because I've been wrong about everything else. It seems, Isaiah. I had to go and Google my Googles. You know what I mean? So I'm pretty sure you're right and I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the fans will let us know. What did Larry play? Was he Lucky or was he Coco or Cookie in the Cocoa Puffs and Lucky Charms commercials? But nonetheless, man, Isaiah, like I said, I love your channel. I know I've told you that so many times, so I apologize. But ladies and gentlemen, I cannot stress enough. Please click on the link below that will take you directly to 47 Cartoon Guy, man, and give this guy a follow and a subscribe. You're not going to regret it. If you love animation, if you even like a little bit of my podcast, you're absolutely going to love what he's doing over there on his 47 Cartoon Guy channel. So where can the folks that are listening now and watching now, where can they find you at, Isaiah?
You can find me at 47 Cartoon Guy on YouTube and 47 Cartoon Guy on 47 Cartoon Guy on Instagram.
Beautiful. Well, like I said, man, this has been a real honor and a real blast. I can't wait to do this again. I gotta set something up where we can do this like every couple of months. Maybe we watch a show or some shit like that. We can come on here and just kick it and talk animation, man.
I love that, man. It was just thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Well, he's been the 47 Cartoon Guy. Well, I can't start pointing up anymore because when Larry takes these videos, it's always this way and it's always that way. So we'll go, he's been 47 Cartoon Guy. And hopefully Larry doesn't see this one and then he does what he likes to do. He likes to I don't want to say he likes to set traps for me, but like if I point to one direction, he'll actually put the video on the opposite side of what it usually is. So I look like the asshole. So Larry, don't make me look like an asshole today. So he's been 47 Cartoon Guy. I've been the What's My Head podcast, and this has been another piece of your childhood. Good night.